Art One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to Art One-on-One. I am your pod boss, Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator and brightly dressed Mr. Burgher today.
Gotta wear shades because I'm so bright. The future's so bright.
I think I'm the one that needs the shades.
You want to trade outfits?
No.
Okay.
No.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So we're off again, getting closer and closer to the holiday Christmassy season. We're in the midst of Hanukkah.
That's right.
Approaching Kwanzaa and all of the other holiday festivities, and Christmas is also quickly approaching. So we're carving out time just like a Christmas goose so that we can bring art and knowledge to our fellow art likers.
Followers. Yeah, and I think we're trying to incorporate a little bit of Christmas-themed material in here.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on this week, I think. So I think we'll see where it goes.
We're going to talk about that. Well, let's start with our normal segment, which is Ask the Art Guides.
We can journey or we can ask.
Yeah, we'll start with Ask the Art Guides.
Okay, Ask the Art Guides.
All right, so...
It's our typical... I feel like every time when we talk, and I feel like we step on each other a lot when we talk.
I'll have to pay attention to that. So the card I pulled was Jeanne Cocteau.
Jeanne Cocteau.
Yes. Which I don't know much about. Do you know much about him?
I just know a little bit in passing, in that he is somehow passively involved with the Dada Surrealist movement. We have talked about what surrealism is in the past. I think last week.
Yeah, we did.
Matter of fact, we talked about that a little bit. But so I know that much. I wouldn't say that I am very knowledgeable on him or that sort of thing. So
I read a little bit up on him, and he sounds like he was buddies with Picasso, very similar to Picasso in his personality, very...
A douche?
Well, I guess that's how you can say it, but it's very lonely, very isolated, he just sounds like...
Picasso, not to be crass, but Picasso was a jerk. He was a misogynist and a great artist. Nobody can deny his artistic horsepower, but he was not a good person. So,
well, we're going to use a card, and I am going to choose because there is one that I particularly like, and I think we kind of differ on this topic, so maybe it'll provide some good conversation.
Good combo.
Find your future in the past.
Actually, you know what? I like that one.
Okay. Why do you like that one?
You tell me. I'm more curious as to why you like that.
Well, because I think this will... it's not that I like it. I just think it will provide some meaningful conversation because you are very history... You love history, and you think... Well, you're like... You feel like history... You learn from history, and that's what makes us make choices based on the future, right? Based on what has happened historically, what lessons we've learned, things like that.
I'm glad you're speaking for me today.
We've had this conversation in the past with each other. Am I wrong? Elaborate.
You're not wrong. But it's just the fact that you're speaking for me.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Burgher.
I'm here. I can speak for myself, but I appreciate you speaking.
Well, you asked why I chose it, and so that was part of my response to you.
Fair enough.
Because I know where you stand on this, and I know where I stand on this, and so I think it'll be interesting to talk about. And people to have, people to listen and make their own. Because, I'm not as interested in history as you are.
That's an understatement. That's a huge understatement. As you, fairly safe to say, you are not an individual that gets too worked up or seeking a lot of knowledge and background on general history or geography or your basic social sciences or social studies or humanities in any way, shape, or form.
I am awful. I'm awful, but by choice, because it's not something I'm interested in. Now, I say that, but then, like, if we go back and we talk about, like, the pyramids or different artists that have interesting stories, and I told you this the other day, I love that piece of it. Like, knowing the I don't know what I want to say the goop stuff, the stories that no one knows, or like what's that called? What's the word I'm looking for?
I have no idea what word you're talking about, but you realize that there's lots and lots of old content that I have already created on ancient Rome, ancient Greece,
and those are some of my favorites.
Ancient Egypt. Well, we have very rarely talked about them on Journey into the Archives, so we'll see where we go as we eventually get to that segment. But
I feel like history, if we look too much at history, we get stuck in the past. And I am not a person that likes to get stuck in the past. I like to focus on the present, where I'm at now, and my future. And not even so much the future, just like where I'm at now. And this is, we disagree. We agree to disagree on this topic.
I don't even think we agree to disagree. We just straight up disagree.
I agree to disagree with you. I don't care that that's your opinion. I
do care that that's your opinion, because I know that if you don't know where you've been, you have no idea where you're going to go. If you have no idea you can learn so much about what to do or what not to do based upon history. So, for example, how do my children learn how to be good parents? Or bad parents? Well, they look at me as an example. They look at their mom as an example. They look at other parents as examples, and that's how they decide. How do most teachers teach? They teach the way they were taught, good, bad, or indifferent. That's what they do. And if you want the future generations of teachers to step up and do things a certain way, then you have to model best practice. So when I go to school and I wear a shirt and a tie darn near every day, like to the point where people have said, can you stop wearing ties? I don't care what people think. That's what I wear. That's like how I feel good about what I'm doing, and every day.
Logo.
And so because that's a part of what I do and what I believe in, I feel like I'm a model of what a good teacher should be. Now, does that make my pedagogy great? No, not necessarily. But I do think that dressing the part is a part of professionalism.
Are you going to bring this back into why history is important?
We have to be modeled. There are things that we can be modeled that are modeled. That's
in the present. That's
no, it isn't.
That's what's happening. You're learning from someone in the present.
Something that's happening now is going to affect the future. And why do I wear a shirt and a tie? Because that's what my dad did. That's because the great teachers that I had, that's what they did. And so I learned from them. They learned from generations and generations of teachers that have done it that way. It's the tradition of what we do as educators. Now, does that mean that tradition is going to eventually end and a new generation is going to say, you know what? We're going another path? That could happen. But at least I know that I've set some sort of framework for future. What we do now affects the future.
Well, and here's what I'm going to say about that. There are some things I value so much about history, like my ancestry, like learning the lessons that my ancestors went through, or what like my grandmother went through the Depression. And I have pulled lessons from that. But my point is, I don't need to know the last 50 presidents that were in history. I don't need to know...
Well, we haven't had 50 presidents in history, so...
Okay, I knew you were going to correct me on that, but...
Well, if you knew we didn't have 50 presidents, then why would you say...
Because I just said 50 presidents. Like, I don't need to know. I'm embellishing. I'm making...
Okay, I got you.
Okay. So,
fair enough.
So I don't... if you want me to go into history and learn that there were this many wars, and we had these wars, and it was these people, and these were the presidents, and this is where... No. what's the lesson we learned from that? What is the, like, yes, I think the lesson that we pulled away from those things, but I don't need to know all that other crap. Like, and that's what I told you with artists. Like, it's not like the factual information I want to know about art. And some of your stuff is that. And I don't love that. That's not my favorite. It's the stories behind it. I love when you get into a deep story. Like, for example, we watched a movie the other night called Woman in Gold. Yes. And
it's a great movie.
It was an awesome movie. I loved it. You kept asking me, you don't like this, do you? I'm like, no, I love this movie. I love I want to go see that painting now in New York, right? It's in New York?
I believe so.
Because I know the history. I know where it's been. I can see all of that, and I understand, like, the pain those people went through and, like, the importance of why it is in New York. Like, that is amazing. I loved that movie. Hopefully I didn't ruin that movie I don't think I did, but...
I mean, it's a historical fact, but again, I think that most people would... I mean, there is a bit of a, what do you call that? Where you... I
don't even know what you're at.
Kind of told the end of the movie.
Well, I did, but I think...
That's got a name. There's like a... a spoiler?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert?
Yeah.
But...
You might want to put that, pop that up on the screen.
Spoiler alert. Coming.
But that movie... Oh my gosh, I just was like, I was so into it because just the story behind it and that lady, that's history. I love knowing that history, but knowing facts of presidents and places and wars and I don't like seeing all the, it was hard for me to watch and to think of what those people went through, the Jews in Austria, right?
It was.
To imagine being there during that time and what those people went through
it's unimaginable.
It's really hard to watch that because I think about things like that so deeply, and that's why I don't watch scary movies or super, super sad or gruesome movies. But that lesson, I mean, I'm 100% on board for history and learning from history in that respect. But I just think there's so much in history that I feel like those are the things we need to learn, the lessons, where we've been in that respect, not here are the 50 states, here are the 47, how many presidents are there? Were there?
There have been 46.
Oh, I was so close. I knew it was somewhere around in there.
President Biden is the 46th president.
Okay, 46 presidents. I was close.
And how you don't have a clue.
I don't, and I couldn't name. I've heard my kids say it a million times. I've helped my kids learn the states a million times, but I don't retain that stuff because it's not important to me.
I mean...
And I'm terrible at geography, you're right.
If you should have a basic grasp of the states in our country, I believe.
The names and the capitals? Why is that important?
Maybe not the names, maybe not the capitals and the cities, but you should have a basic idea of geography.
I would rather know what are the products that are there, what what farming is done there, what is the land like there?
What's the shopping scene?
Yeah, and you know that's not me, so you're a dork. But I think those are the things that the kids need to know, not the capitals. Tell them what products that are making our world better in those states. I don't need to know what the capital is. It serves no purpose. And I'm sure someone out there is going to disagree with me.
I disagree with you. You don't have to go to...
Well, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm not saying I'm right in any way. That's just how I feel.
Yeah. Well, and again, I do think that going back to the original... Statement, right. Finding ourselves...
Find your future in the past.
Find your future in the past. I think that there are times that we do that. We look at who we have been and we recreate ourselves. We reimagine ourselves. We look back. For example, we're coming up on New Year's. How many people on New Year's have some sort of goal or a job or this New Year's thing that they're going to do as a redevelopment of themselves? and saying, all right, this year I'm going to work on getting more organized. This year I'm going to hit the gym. And then by February you're done going to the gym. And you're done.
I don't even start it.
It's just one of those things. Like everybody, but you know what I'm saying. Like everybody has those New Year's resolution type things that they want to do or things that they want to work on. It's like a start. Even though every day could be New Year's, every day could be an opportunity to start new. You don't have to wait for.
I think it's just a good motivator and marketing for.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's probably why it is.
But I think that everybody tries to work on themselves or reimagine themselves by reflecting on the past and what they've done and where they want to go and what they want to do.
And maybe I focus more, because you're right. Like I'm not a big goal person, but right now, I told you the other day, that's what I did. I sat down and because I felt like I didn't accomplish much this past year, but then I sat down and like went through what I've accomplished. So, which would be history. I was like, holy crap, I did so much this year, this past 5 years. And it was very motivating. So, there are certain instances where I think history, maybe recent history, maybe your own personal history is more important to you than global history or something. But still, that's modeling or looking or reflecting or whatever it is you want to say on the past in how you're going to proceed forward. I mean, even something so specific as our relationship. I don't know if most people know that we are in some form of a relationship, but we are in some form of a relationship, and that relationship didn't start by, in my view, we've never really talked about this, so it'll be interesting to see what your reaction is, but in looking at our relationship, it's a lot of, what interactions we had in the past and our conversations that we had in the past and how feelings and how perspectives and how our situations and all of those things were at that time, and then how that moved us forward. But then in looking at the prospect of developing a relationship, we looked at the past history and said, okay, that's something I want to do because of this historical past, without getting too deep into it. Yeah.
I mean, I
agree with you. I mean, I definitely think history serves a purpose for certain things. I just think we focus on a lot of unimportant things from history rather than the important things. And I feel the same way with school, and we won't get into that, but I feel like there's so many things that need to be in schools around kids and confidence and emotions.
Well, I care more about kids being well-adjusted, decent people than I do about them getting an A on a test. But that doesn't say that the test isn't important. Like tests and work and all of that is important, but it's not as important, in my view, as being a well-rounded person, being a lifelong learner, being a decent dude,
curious.
I think those things are a lot more important, but we don't have to. The nice thing is we don't have to say either you're going to be a good person or you're going to learn stuff. You can do both.
You definitely can, but I think there's a lack of teachers focusing on that. And that could be because they are expected to do so much.
The role of the teacher has definitely evolved over the course of my 20-year career. I can tell you that, teachers wore a lot of hats, but even more so now than ever before.
Right.
The teacher is the parent and the friend and the counselor and the nurse and there wear lots of hats. They wear lots of roles.
Spend a lot of time with the kids.
I can't tell you how many, because I don't know. I can't tell you because I don't know how many, students walk those hallways and there's a teacher that is the mother figure or the father figure or the model
that's how it was with my teachers.
Being an adult, this is how a well-adjusted adult behaves, not, the random, stuff they got to deal with at home or whatever.
And I'm not saying all teachers. I mean, what you just said is very accurate. And I am so grateful for, like, 2 of my teachers, 3 of my teachers, coaches, probably the most influential people in my life, like growing up, and in a positive way. And to this day, I still, this, I'm still very good, very close to them, keep in touch with them, and reach out to them every once in a while and say how grateful I am. So I just think that the focus on the school system is more about meeting grades and testing, and instead of being better human beings, which I think is a major issue in our world right now.
Yeah.
Except for you. You're just a wonderful human being.
Well, I think that there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
There's always...
Have you set your intentions or your goals for next year?
No. I mean,
you're not one of those people, are you?
I don't really make like New Year's resolutions like that, but I have reflected on certain things that I want to accomplish, certain things that I want to do moving forward.
I keep asking you to do that.
I wouldn't necessarily call that a resolution, but more of a goal. It's not like I'm going to go to the gym and have the body that I had when I was in college. Like, that's not probably going to happen. But what could happen are life goals and relationship goals and exploration goals and all kinds of other things.
Yeah.
That, I want to, I've got goals around this channel. I've got goals around the podcast. I've got goals around, I want to hang out with you for whatever reason. I'm a glutton for punishment.
Well, back to, I do want to put a plug in. That was a really good, that Woman in Gold, which I don't know how old or new that is. I feel like it came out in the last year,
sure.
But it's called The Woman in Gold, and it's about who's the artist?
Gustav Klimt.
And it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And you like art history.
And it's got good art history, and it's a little, it's not so heavy on the art or the artist. It's a little more heavy on the story of the painting, and after it was created, how different people took it and used it, and the governments wanted to keep it, and
so Monuments Men, Woman in Gold. Yeah. How far were those apart?
That's happening at the same time.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was going to say that, and I thought you were going to.
The Monuments Men was World War II, and the Holocaust and all of that was also a part of World War II.
So that's all happening.
So it's all happening.
That is interesting too.
That's all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that the Monuments Men did do, not in the case of this particular painting, but what they did do generally is they tried to track down paintings and get them back to the families that whose artworks were stolen.
What was the movement called? That the government, like that opened up to reparation. Yeah, but then it was like
they wanted to give reparations to the families of for like lost or stolen artworks that had taken place in the past, and so. So that was for real. That was a for real thing that happened. Yes. And did that open up, like in the movie? That was like one of the funny. Like I thought that was such a cool part when they're in the Supreme Court, I think, and they were talking about how that's going to open up a can of worms for if we do this for one person,
it's going to open up a can of worms for all of these people that went through this, which in my mind, it's like, well, good, because they deserve to get what was theirs back and what their family worked for and valued.
Right.
But at the same time, you know, what impact that had on different countries and issues.
Those things have been ongoing for long periods of time. And like I said, the Monuments Men was developed to get people back their family heirlooms, and valuables and artworks and blah, 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 blah. And there's a history of things that have been stolen through war, you know, going back to their rightful owners. And this is an example of that. I wouldn't say that it's not like a one-time only thing, but at the same time, it also didn't open up the door where, you know, every person is saying, hey, I'm going to sue every country in the world to try to get my family heirlooms back. Because that's, I mean, it's not very realistic to...
Well, the value of that piece in particular was, I think, a driving force for...
Yeah, the number of families that have that sort of situation in their family is, I mean, it's not like every family has, you know, their artwork stolen by a government or whatnot, you know, just...
The part that was so infuriating to me was how they thought that it was right. Like, he rightfully thought it was his piece of art.
Yeah.
Who was that?
It was the Austrian government gallery guy.
How, in your mind, do you think that is yours?
Yeah.
Because you stole it from someone?
Well, I think that it's...
But that someone stole it from them, and then the government got it.
Well, and they believed... I mean, I would tell our viewers and whatnot, watch the movie and get the information, and then all of that will kind of... Yeah. All of that will fall into place.
It just gets me riled up.
So...
Okay, well, enough about
the...
Oracle... guides.
And we're going to jump into...
We are going to jump into Journey into the Archives.
Journey into the Archives, one of your favorite segments that we've only been doing a while now, but...
Yes.
But it's a good one.
It is a good one. We've kind of skipped around, done it sometimes and not done it sometimes, but the video I watched was on Christo, which I'm sure you're familiar with because of the timing of the year.
Yeah, well, it was... Christo, there was... Christo for Christmas was the video.
Okay.
And it talks about him and his wife and their artworks that they made, which are large scale.
Very interesting.
Constructions that they would put together, and they're
wraps.
So a lot of things are wrapped, like they wrapped a castle and a bridge and a coastline and things like that. But they also did umbrellas. They did. The Gates project
the Gates were cool
in New York, in Central Park.
Central Park, yeah.
And then they did all kinds, like Running Fence was a very popular one back in the day. I did not
get, that took them 4 years? Is that what it said? 4 years to finish, and I'm thinking...
I know that to get all of the permits and all of the things to do it, it took multiple years.
I don't know about that. I mean, to each his own. That seems like...
Yeah, I mean, and they also got pretty heftily, as I recall, they got a pretty hefty fine for Running Fence because the fence actually goes into the Pacific Ocean, and when it was at low tide, it was not in the water, but when it was at high tide, then it was in the water, and because it went into the water, it violated... I don't know, some sort of law protection sort of thing for sea life and all of that, because, I mean, the land is a little different than the ocean and the regulations of what you could or couldn't do. But yeah, I think, as I recall, they got a pretty substantial fine for...
Well, and it was large investments of money to do the flag, or what were the gates and the running fence.
Yeah.
Like... Oh my goodness.
Surrounded Islands is another one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the cool thing, I think, that you pointed out in there was that they cleaned all of those islands before. Like, they were doing good things around.
Tons and tons of garbage removed.
So I felt like they were doing. It's not like they were trying to. Yeah. And they recycled the items that they used for wrapping. They gave back to the companies or sold back to the companies.
Everything that they
recycle. So
they bought a bunch of stuff and they'd sell it all back.
See, that's the interesting stuff to me, not the.
So it was more of a rental.
I suppose, but
although they keep some things and sell them for mementos, I guess. I don't know.
It was just interesting how they wrapped like large structures and things like that, or monuments and things like that. And I think you're hiding this beautiful piece of art with a wrap that's supposed to be art. But
what do you mean?
That, like, if you look at some of the wrapping that they did, the pictures that you had in there, it was, to me, it hid some of the art underneath it.
What was underneath it?
There were, like, not monuments, but, like, sculptures and things like that they wrapped. Buildings that they wrapped.
Buildings? But that's not, I mean, you could argue that that's art, but sometimes it's just...
Buildings are definitely art. Look at temples and buildings.
I'm just saying, like, and these things go up for a week.
2 weeks is what it says.
You know, so it's not like you're never going to see it again.
I understand. And
a lot of times it's like a coastline, or it's a tree, or it's a, you know, it's a gate. It's just a piece of wood with a flap coming down. It's
his story about the tidbit that you put in there about him and his wife, though, I thought was interesting. But what's her name?
Jeanne-Claude.
Jeanne-Claude. And she did more of what kind of art did she do?
She's a weird dude back in the day. So she was not an artist, but she fell in love with him, but she was engaged to get married and had an affair with him and got pregnant with him while she was engaged and ended up leaving her
husband at the time.
Husband, or I don't know.
Fiance?
Whoever she was involved with before, whether it was a husband or whatever it was, left him to go with Christo. And then she said, there was a couple of interesting interviews that I had listened to where she had said things like, if Christo was a dentist, I would have become a dentist. Whatever Christo was, I wanted to become. So it's kind of a weird sort of
infatuation.
Maybe infatuation. Maybe what would you call that? Like somebody that has to live with someone that
like
codependent. Yeah, kind of a codependent thing. I don't know.
That is weird.
Kind of a weird situation between them.
So she became an artist because he was an artist.
Was she
successful at all?
She didn't do anything besides what he did.
So she did like the getting stuff, like the...
So she would do the paperwork for getting the fences going. Yes. She contacted the companies to say, we need 10,000 bolts. Mm-hmm. We need, 15,000 washers. We need whatever they needed.
Yeah.
She would buy and order the materials and store the materials and make sure that, they had warehouses where they kept the materials, so she kind of kept everything organized so that he could do the designing and the creating and the painting and the drawing, and she did the selling and the marketing and the other stuff.
Organizing.
Right. And so she was an artist on paper.
Yeah.
But I would call her more of an artist assistant or more of a, helper-outer. As opposed to somebody that actually, she wasn't really constructing anything, but
I think
she very much identified as an artist, and by a lot of modern contexts, all you have to do is think you are an artist and you are. So
yeah, I suppose, as in with a lot of other trades nowadays.
Sure.
I think as I watched the video, I was like, how, coming from the background that they have, and they lived very frugally, it sounds like, I was like, in these projects were like $23 million, $4 million. I'm thinking, how in the world is their art providing an income enough for them too? But there is a story behind that too, right? With his family?
Yeah, well, he made prints of the projects and then so they were basically drawings, and he would mass produce these drawings and sell them as fundraisers. And then eventually, a family member of his developed some sort of ball bearing system. And the ball bearing is used for lots of heavy equipment. And then that ball bearing design he had inherited, which allowed him to get the money for the patent on that design. So then all of these big manufacturing companies that were using that design for their large equipment, they were paying him huge sums of money
that funded along with selling his artwork.
Right. And so then all of those things allowed him to have the financial freedom to, okay, let's, instead of having to fundraise everything on your own like he did in the beginning, now he kind of had the financial freedom to kind of let it loose a little bit more.
That's a great concept. Maybe you need to come up with some.
Yeah, maybe I should have a family member that designed a big.
Or you could just come up with a patent and then.
Yeah.
Fund.
Because I got all kinds of time.
Ideas for next year.
For designing.
You have it this summer. What are you talking about?
Oh my god! Yeah, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend my summer designing a patent for a ball bearing.
No, I did not say for a ball bearing. Do something artistic.
I know lots about heavy machinery. That would work out well for me.
You're totally taking that out of context. So how does Christo tie in with Christmas? Why did you do that during Christmas?
I just did. Because wrapping presents.
You never said that. You put a lot of Christmas movies in there.
Because it was Christo for Christmas.
Okay, so it was more Christo, the name for Christmas, and you kind of were...
No, because he raps. Like a Christmas present.
Like a rapper.
Not like Run DMC. Watch the video.
It's like all the...
and actually, I believe that video got flagged because I put too long of a clip of Run DMC in it. So if that video explodes with popularity, once again, I'm donating the money. Like there was one, the romantic art that goes to Rob Zombie.
Because you can only have a certain length of video.
Well, if you have a clip and it gets flagged for it being, I think if you show more than 10 seconds of something, then they flag it.
So even if you reference it, it doesn't matter.
If I had said rap like Run DMC, that wouldn't be a problem. But if I actually play their music, then yep, that becomes a problem, which I did. So
way to go.
When I make money on that video, because it blows up, Run DMC gets it. You're welcome, gentlemen. I'm here to help.
All right, so there really isn't any big tie-in to Christmas other than you were using rapping as a...
Yes.
At first, that's what when I looked at the video, that's actually... Because you talk about rapping, I thought maybe it was, eventually it would get to wrapping paper or, something that he created around wrapping paper.
At the beginning, his beginning of his career was a lot of wrapping things and fabrics.
Right. But it was metal stuff.
Yeah, and, cans, steel drums and stuff, jars and things like that.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
So many different forms of art.
There's a lot of stuff
I appreciate more than others.
There's lots of stuff out there.
And lots of videos out there.
And the thing is that, with my students, we were just having this conversation this past week, there's a million different artists doing a million different things, and they had to do a research type thing, and I said, I want you to focus on true artists and not just a Google search for famous painting and pick one. I want you to think about what you want to find. And they're like, well, how do we know? You have to use your resources. Think about...
Things that resonate with you? That you're passionate about?
And it's difficult. It's like trying to find a needle in the haystack. You know.
Yeah, I see that in my kids too when you ask them to do something.
Like, find an artist that uses stripes. I want stripes in my painting. How do I find an artist with stripes that does lines or stripes? So it's, okay, here's what we do. And then break it down, like how to do the search. What you have to put into the Google machine to get it to find what you're looking for.
Now you can just tell what is that called? AI. And it'll just find it for you.
Well, but AI generates it.
Right.
Unless you're doing some sort of AI search thing, which, whatever. Anyway, I appreciate everybody watching, sharing, subscribing. The numbers are going up. Here toward the end of the year, we're going to do kind of an end of the year wrap up, but we've got a couple weeks.
Yeah.
We've got a couple weeks for that.
A couple weeks before Christmas, 1 week when this launches. Ugh.
Yeah. And
time flies.
We'll be getting going, and and if there are other art type movies that you suggest, put them down in the comments. Maybe we'll make that a ongoing regular segment of talking about art movies. If
we've watched some good ones, the Frida one, I thought that was interesting.
Which we never really talked about on the.
We haven't?
I don't know if we really talked about that movie on the channel, but maybe we will.
Well, maybe.
So, anyway, appreciate everybody for liking, sharing, and watching, and that's that.
Reach into the archives.
Yep.
Well, I was waiting for you to say something after I said it. You're so...